Welcome back to Stories with Sissy. Today we travel way back in time, to the year 2009. Flo Rida's hit song Low was still playing in our MP3 players. We still had MP3 players. It's late summer in the affluent city of Boynton Beach, Florida, where newlyweds Mike and Dalia Dippolito are turning heads and making waves. In the news media, that is. Dalia Dippolito came from seemingly humble beginnings, but everyone that knew Dalia as an adult would say she had a taste for the finer things in life, and it's alleged that she knew how to use her good looks to open doors and move several steps closer to the good life. Dalia tried her hand at selling residential real estate, but it turned out to be far more demanding than she desired, and Dalia subsequently enrolled as a professional escort via Eros.com. A major career 180 that allowed her to meet her soon-to-be husband, Mike Dippolito. Mike Dippolito is a tall, muscular, charming, and success-driven guy, and he seemingly had similar aspirations to those of Dalia's, that of the good life and vast wealth. The two quickly bonded over their love of Starbucks and physical activity. So it's no wonder that hiring Dalia for what should have been just some weekend company turned into a fast and wild love affair between the two. Everything was seemingly perfect except for the affair part, because, you see, this genuinely was the beginning of an affair, an extramarital one. Mike Dippolito was very married. According to Dalia, Mike provided her with all the proof she needed to substantiate the fact that he was already involved in divorce proceedings with his wife. 6 months later, the couple are swiftly married at the county courthouse. Now, I hate to talk about the negative things from a victim's past because by no means does any person deserve to be murdered in their own home. But delving just a bit into Mike's past will play a large role in this story. So, not only have we determined that Mike Dippolito was involved in a whirlwind extramarital affair with an escort, but he also, unfortunately, had a criminal past. Mike had served time in prison for his role in a fraudulent boiler room stock operation. This involved cold calling unsuspecting citizens with offers of can't-be-beat penny stock options that were entirely fraudulent. Mike ended up pleading guilty to 3 financial crimes and served 2 years, but left prison with the remaining 28 years of probation. In the early morning hours of August 5th, 2009, young newlywed Dalia Dippolito leaves her husband asleep in their home and heads to the LA Fitness gym in their hometown of Boynton Beach, Florida. During a routine workout, Dalia misses a call from the Boynton Beach Police Department and checks her voicemail to find an urgent message from Sergeant Frank Ramsey of the Detectives Department. Dalia returns the sergeant's call just moments after missing it. However, the sergeant does not tell Dalia anything about the nature of his call and instead insists that he fill Dalia in once she returns to our residence. Upon arrival, Dalia walks through a nightmare of news media cameras and crime scene paraphernalia to meet with Sergeant Ramsey. Sergeant Ramsey informs the anxious woman that her husband, Mike Dippolito, has been murdered. Dalia immediately goes into visible distress, sobbing, crying, no, and actually falling into Sergeant Ramsey's arms. By all appearances, this was the beginning of the end for Dalia Dippolito. So after being informed about Mike's murder, Dalia is pleading with the sergeants to see her husband, but she's being told the only thing she can do to help Mike now is to go with detectives to the station and begin answering questions. Now, I'm not making a commentary on her guilt or innocence here. However, it's a little predatory, in my opinion, to coerce someone into police custody while they're in shock or bereaved. I'm not giving legal advice by any means, but if you get cornered into an interrogation room without legal counsel, sometimes bad things happen. And yes, even to innocent people. But that's a totally different subject for another video. I'll have to cover that. So you can see from the footage that Dalia willingly gets into the backseat of the detective's car and she's transported to the station for further questioning, which would be done by Sergeant Paul Sheridan. Sergeant Sheridan's line of questioning starts fairly normal. He begins with asking Dalia if there's anyone that could want to hurt her husband, and Dalia almost too eagerly offers the information that Mike Dippolito was currently on probation for his financial crimes and begins steering the conversation towards the idea that this could have somehow been a revenge crime enacted by one of Mike's fraud victims. Nothing too unusual, right? It's the old eye for an eye justification, nothing too weird right up front. But then Dalia takes another plunge way downhill by informing Sergeant Sheridan that Mike also struggled with drug and alcohol abuse. So Dalia even reveals Mike's previous drug of choice as being crack cocaine. And maybe she's just one of those people that nervously says too much, but she also ends up telling Sergeant Sheridan that the only reason Mike Dippolito hadn't been at the gym with Dalia that morning, like all the others, is because he was healing from abdominal liposuction. Liposuction. I can't talk. I mean, it's a valid point to make when you're being questioned about a murder, but also when you see the interrogation footage, it does come off a little word vomity. Sergeant Sheridan eventually ends up asking Dalia straight up, did you and Mike have any issues in your marriage, financial or otherwise? And Dalia staunchly denies it. But as you may have guessed, this just isn't true. Or was it? Okay, because this is where it gets confusing. So there are plenty of people that speculate one of the reasons that Dalia was attracted to Mike in the first place was because of his acquired wealth and because of his lifestyle that he already had attained before even meeting Dalia. I mean, that's in theory. Dalia claims that she actually fell in love with Mike because he was charming and nice and athletic and they had things in common. And we can't take that away from her. It's all speculation. But regardless, Dalia did have a history of successfully cashing in on other men before Mike Dippolito, such as her on and off friend of 15 years, Mohammed Shihadeh. Mohammed was a high-rolling entrepreneur and enthusiastic Vegas poker player. I seriously can't talk tonight, y'all. He was a Vegas poker player. Dalia and Mohammed met by chance when she visits his convenience store, and over the years, Dalia not only confides in him when things are awry in her love life, but they begin a sexually explicit, flirtatious relationship that spans throughout the years. According to Dalia, they weren't even close friends, but I have a feeling Mohammed would say they were. So in July of 2009, just 1 month before the crimes committed against Mike Dippolito, Dalia confided in her longtime friend or associate, Mohammed, about the damaging emotional abuse she was suffering from her husband, Mike. This is alleged emotional abuse, I will add. Dalia wasn't looking for separation advice or even just a referral for a great divorce attorney. Dalia emphasized to her friend just how ineffective a divorce would be under the circumstances. Dalia wanted something a lot more permanent and a lot less expensive. Dalia wants her husband, Mike Dippolito, killed. Mohammed realizes just how dire this situation is, and to be frank, he has to be shitting himself. Even hearing a friend confess that they want their spouse dead, I mean, I would be shitting myself hearing someone I thought I knew saying that to me. And they're willing to pay for it? Understanding the repercussions of a murder investigation, Mohammed decides that committing the murder personally just isn't an option for him. But he also quickly realizes that Dalia Dippolito was seriously seeking someone, anyone, to murder her husband. With a heavy conscience and fearing the worst was to come, Mohammed immediately informs the Boynton Beach Police Department that Dalia Dippolito was seeking a murder for hire. Soon after meeting with Boynton Beach detectives, Muhammad is contacted again on August 1st with a proposition. Boynton Beach PD needs Muhammad to act as a confidential informant and obtain a recorded confession of Dalia's intent to hire her husband's killer. Dalia arrives at the meetup spot, and upon entering Muhammad's car, she almost immediately begins incriminating herself. Dalia has $1,200 cash as a down payment for the kill, 2 current pictures of her husband for reference, and she begins theorizing on possible alibis for the day of the murder. 2 days later, on August 3rd, 2009, Dalia finally meets her murder-for-hire killer in person, Witty Jean. Dalia is adamant that she wants her husband murdered and she wants it done ASAP. Witty Jean tries emphasizing to Dalia that, once you've committed to this murder, there's no stopping it and what's done is done. And Dalia replies, quote, "I'm positive, like 5,000% sure." Yeah. So with that, Witty Jean coordinates the events of the murder. They know it's going to happen on August 5th, and he tells Dalia, when you come home from the gym, Mike will be dead in your home. And she's totally satisfied with that. So the morning of August 5th, 2009, everything's going just as planned. When Dalia Dippolito leaves for the gym, like she had been instructed, Boynton Beach PD move onto the scene. And get this, they're actually being accompanied by the Fox TV network series Cops. So Cops was there to film this entire embarrassing debacle in real time. This is where everything from the opening of this segment occurs. Only now, it would appear that her volatile and intense reaction to the news of her husband's death was all an elaborately planned act. Like, knowing what we know now, that whole bursting into tears before, the detective can finish saying your husband is and she's like sobbing. Yeah, that seems really overacted now. So let's backtrack to the interrogation between Detective Sheridan and Dalia Dippolito on the day of the murder. Sergeant Sheridan brings Witty Jean into the interrogation room after several attempts to pull a semblance, a shred, a morsel of truth from Dalia in regards to her husband's murder. Dalia denies ever meeting Witty Jean, despite there being footage of her speaking to Witty Jean and paying him. She refuses to acknowledge him as the hitman for hire she knew him as. When Witty Jean is removed from the interrogation room, Sergeant Sheridan informs Dalia that Witty Jean is an undercover Boynton Beach police officer and that she's been under surveillance since seeking the assistance of Mohammed Shibadeh. Dalia Dippolito is then placed under arrest for solicitation of murder for her husband Mike Dippolito, her very much alive husband. It seemed like Boynton Beach PD had successfully orchestrated an incredible sting. You would think with this much evidence, it would be nothing short of an open and shut case. But this was only the beginning of an unbelievable legal battle. This case is a lot. So this is part 1 of a 2-part episode. But because this is just the beginning of my series, I feel like it works out. There's nothing better than stumbling upon a new podcast or something that you like, and there's plenty to binge on. So be sure to subscribe so that you're notified of part 2 when it drops. I'm going to get working away on that, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed all the twists and turns of this episode. As always, if you know of any crazy, wild, or just plain out there stories, mysteries, conspiracies, anything, let me know. I do want to hear from all of you, and I'd be honored to do a deep dive into whatever you suggest. With that, I say, let's all strive to be a Muhammad in this crazy, crazy world, and watch your asses, people. Until next time.